I'm sure you all had your doubts, not unlike a lot of us. But I told those guys afterwards, this is the first time in 10 months that I've seen that out of our guys. And probably what makes me happiest. And it's not just finding a way to win. It's the resiliency. It's the fight, the grit that I don't know that I had seen. You know, we'd been in some situations in fourth quarters, you know, in 2 games this year and didn't find a way to come out with it. And, you know, we just continue the routines, how we do things, and talk about consistency and talking about finding ways to take care of your brothers and never letting up. You know, and I'll be honest, that right there was, you know, a telltale to me. And, you know, it was not a great situation down 21-10 or, you know, 21-7, to be honest, with a young quarterback. But there's a lot of guys that really stepped up. And the offensive line, I think in particular, did an unbelievable job. But Braelon Allen did an unbelievable job in having to foot a load. And you know, even that 3rd and 10 run down there to keep us rolling. But I don't know what else I could say about Braedyn Locke. The guy's got incredible poise, you know, for a young guy that went out there today and put in a really, really tough situation, and he performed really well.
Questions for Coach? Jeff, go ahead.
On Monday, you were asked a question, and you said, you've got to stop looking at the destination and enjoy the journey to get us there. Do you think this is an example of that, coming down 21-7 like that, and it looks like?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is, and that's where, you know, it's hard sometimes, you know, because, you know, all the noise, we all hear it, and we all heard it from the get-go, and it all felt good to start with. But, you know, I don't know that it was a reality, and it never is, right, before you start the things. But I think we can get lost in some of those situations, and I can as well, you know. I mean, believe me, it doesn't make it any easier for any of us. But continuing to harp on those things about, look, it's a journey, it's not the destination. These are the things that you'll remember more than anything, whatever it ends up being, right? That time in the locker room, those are the things that college football is so special, and what makes the bonds, you know, so special from this game.
I don't know how much time you spent with Braedyn during the week or even today, if you made a point to look in his eyes or see. I'm just curious what you saw from him this week, what you saw from him.
Well, I didn't spend a ton of time. I mean, I spend probably a similar amount of time with the quarterbacks in their meetings and things like that. I don't put a whole lot in, just other than, you know, how we handle situations, the attitude we have, the ability for us to be leaders. You know, and I didn't want to, you know, put more upon his plate the whole week, right? So, you know, in some ways I kind of backed away and let him just kind of go about his business. But I said it a few minutes ago, last week was a rough one, especially for him. You know, he comes in there in a really tough situation, but he did show me something last week, meaning that, like, as tough as it was, he didn't look overwhelmed. He didn't look like he was rattled. He had a poise and patience, maybe a little bit too much, and didn't throw the ball away. But I really believe that he's got an internal confidence. He's got some poise to him, and I really think that last week helped him in a lot of ways. And you know, so he's going to continue to grow, and he did a phenomenal job today.
Luke, you mentioned that 3rd and 10 run by Braelon. A lot of coaches in that situation are just thinking we've got to throw because of the time and everything like that. What went into the thought process there of giving him another chance with the ball?
Well, we knew it was a 4-down situation, so you know, you had some opportunities to get yourself into the position where you're going to go for it on 4th down. But you know, when it comes down to it, you got to get the ball in your horse's hands, and sometimes it doesn't always look like the right thing. But if you can get it in your horse's hands and you can give them an opportunity, they're the ones that make plays. We said before the game, I said before the game, this is going to be about a game of making plays. And the last couple of weeks, that's just what we haven't done. At least last week, we just to make the plays that come your way is what you work for. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And the first half, it didn't happen. You know, I thought we dropped some balls. I thought we, you know, missed some tackles. But, you know, they didn't hang their head. They didn't bat an eye. And in the second half, they went out there and they made some plays. I mean, the Will Pauling adjustment to make the touchdown catch to Braelon, to Braedyn. I mean, just the game comes down to plays that have to be made. We didn't make many of them in the first half, but we made a lot of them in the second half.
Okay, Jesse. Go, Jesse.
Look, I know you're not thinking about Ohio State yet, but just given how tough of a stretch this is for the team, how critical do you think a performance like this was just for the morale of the guys going into a game like that?
It's big. I mean, we're all learning each other. We're all growing. We all thought and maybe think at the beginning of the year that this thing's going to go this direction and this is how it's going to be and we're going to roll. And seasons never go like that. And you got to go through the ups and the downs. And unfortunately, sometimes you got to go through a bit more of the downs. And you got to find ways to grow. And, so this was big. I think big for confidence. I think big for just showing that we have the fight, that passion to play the game. That they do. It's just sometimes when we've been put into situations late in the games, we haven't been able to make those plays. And, so there's a lot of things. To come out with a victory is obviously huge, the momentum, the energy, things like that. But I think the ability to make plays, especially down the stretch, the ability to come back, I think has a far bigger impact than anything else.
Jeff, you talk about making plays late in the game. You throw the ball to a guy who sure did it in practice, the touchdown catch by Rucci. But what goes into saying, okay, we've got confidence in this guy to make that play when we're down?
I'm not sure that I would have said that was exactly the play that we would go to. But, in that situation, it was. And in some ways I'm I'm not sure. I've had another timeout. Maybe we'd have called it right there. But, you got confidence and you got to put it in. And we're in a better situation, obviously, because we can kick a field goal. We feel like we got some momentum. We'll go to overtime. We feel good about what we're doing. But we wanted to find a way to win the football game. And you had to take a shot at it. And I give Phil, I give the offense, I give Rucci, and Braedyn all the props, because ultimately they had to make the play. And thank goodness he's 6'7", because he needed all of it.
Luke, some of the second half drives, there were a couple of plays where their quarterback extended the drive with some runs, but ultimately you guys had only one touchdown given up and 3 punts in 4 drives. What did you see from your defense in being able to respond and also on those plays?
We didn't make some of those plays, and gotta give the guy credit. He did a great job at making us miss, pulling the ball, and I don't know how many yards rushing he had, but he was a difference maker. And but they didn't bat an eye. They didn't duck their head. They didn't stop fighting. And there's a lot of those third down situations where we're critical, to get our offensive ball back. You got the wind in the fourth quarter. Those situations were huge, and we didn't make the plays. The last one, I think we were all out pressure, and he ran around the edge on Kamoy. We did that on purpose, saying, okay, well, we've had a hard time tackling him. Let's get Kamoy off the edge. I think he's a guy who can run him down, and the guy made a play. And I think that's what ultimately it comes down to. And, but we found a way, right? They flipped the field and made it harder on our offense. But if some way, somehow, we found a way to make the plays when we needed to stop them on third down and to force them into punting.
Let's go, Mark, and then
Along the same lines with the defense, I mean, you still had 30 seconds left and go out and stop that final possession. What did you see there? Obviously, there are a couple plays.
Yeah, the hook and ladder. I think we've seen that. I think we gave up something earlier. It's one of those things you talk about, but it's hard to simulate. But obviously we were in a good situation. We were playing it soft, knowing that we had to keep the ball in front of us. We had to try to tackle them in bounds. They didn't have any timeouts left. We even threw a young guy in there we'd had a hard time spying the quarterback. We had a hard time bringing the quarterback down. We throw a true freshman in there for the last 4 plays. I'm not sure he knew exactly what he was doing. But we said, hey, you just mirror the quarterback, and if he takes off, you got to go get him. And we did it. So, but no, we made it a little closer than we needed to. The hook and ladder put them in a situation. But again, it goes back to they're against the wind with 30 seconds to go. It's a really tough situation.
let's go, Mike, over here.
Luke, you talked about the win. How difficult of a decision or debate was that at halftime to decide on the win?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a debate. It was a little bit. I think I told you that we had a game like this last year at SMU that was a really windy day, and we did not have the win. We chose not to take the win in the fourth quarter, and it almost came back to beat us. You know, they drove down. We had to stop a 2-point conversion with 30 seconds to go in the game. And that's all that was in my head at halftime about, okay, now we're going to put this on the defense. We're going to kick this ball into the wind. We're going to have to step up. We're going to have to keep this thing close because we're going to play for the fourth quarter. And in some ways, I don't know that we've done a great job of that this year, but we did today. And so having that win in the fourth quarter and them not for the last 27 seconds was a big deal.
Goal.
You mentioned, or Braelon mentioned in the past, like his goal this year was to finish games stronger and be that guy in the fourth quarter. He's done that the last few games for you. Have you coached a running back that's got that ability to finish as strong as he's doing lately?
He has proven some things to me the last 2 weeks in particular. I thought last week that, as well as it wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot of great things to talk about. His physicality, his you know, his ability, especially in that second half, to run a little bit angry. I really noticed. And again, it gets overlooked sometimes because you don't win a football game. But I thought that he came into this game obviously knowing that we had to, you know, shoulder some load. You know, not that we didn't have confidence in the freshman, you know, in Braedyn, but knowing that, hey, this is going to be a situation where we gotta step up. We're going to have to ride you. And you know, he played 62 snaps last week. I don't know how many carries he exactly had. I would bet you that he may have played at least 60-some snaps today. I don't know how many carries he ended up with. But ultimately, when it comes down to, you know, the stretch, you got to be at your best. And we have to put it in his hands, and I thought that was as big a play as any of them.
29 for 145.
29 for 145.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.